The story begins with Gilsu, a boy who was sitting in a car playing a fighting game on his phone. His father asked him to put the phone down, but Gilsu simply ignored him. His mother commented that his father was talking to him and that he should at least respond, but even then, Gilsu remained silent. He thought that his father probably regretted having such a pathetic son like him, someone who was treated like a human ashtray at school. His mother also commented that if the students at the new school started beating him up too, he could just give up. She said she only wanted him to have a life where he felt comfortable. But Gilsu thought she was lying. She was the one who insisted on moving to another city just so he could transfer schools when he said he wanted to quit studying. In the middle of all that, he even lost the match in the game he was playing. He thought that maybe it would be better to put an end to everything. The next day, Gilsu went to the new school. He just wanted to run away from there. He kept hoping for some kind of disaster to happen, an earthquake, a North Korean invasion, anything that would wipe everyone out at once. In the classroom, he introduced himself saying he was Gilsu, that he had come from Seoul and that he had never been to that small town before. He also said it was a pleasure to meet everyone. Deep down, he just wanted time to stop and for nothing bad to happen. To his surprise, the students applauded him. They said the pleasure was all theirs and that they were finally happy to have someone from the capital in their class. They even commented that he had a different aura, like someone from the big city. Later, some students approached him in a way that seemed kind of threatening. Gilsu immediately thought he was going to get beaten up again. He was already bracing for the worst, but when one of the boys put a hand on his shoulder, he simply introduced himself. This boy was Jin Do-il, who asked if Gilsu had trouble getting used to new things. He suggested they go to the convenience store together so he could show him the way. Gilsu accepted the invitation, a bit suspicious. Later, he realized it was the first time he was going to a convenience store casually with someone. On the way, Jin Do-il asked what he thought of another friend's eyebrows, explaining that it was probably because of those eyebrows that the friend's girlfriend had broken up with him. Gilsu replied that he actually thought they had their charm. Deep down, he thought he wasn't expecting any of that. He started wondering what kind of school this was, why everyone seemed so happy, and if maybe he could finally feel at ease there. While thinking about that, Gilsu bumped into someone and ended up spilling juice on the person's shirt. He quickly apologized and said he could pay to have the shirt washed, but the boy replied that it was fine and thanked him for the offer. Gilsu was confused, wondering if that guy had really been nice to him. For the first time, he thought maybe he could have a normal life at that school. So far, that day had actually been pretty good. He started to realize that the school's atmosphere was completely different from all the others he had been to. Everyone seemed nice and kind. Gilsu thought he had worried for nothing and felt happy about the move. That was when Jin Do-il approached again and asked if Gilsu had plans for that day, inviting him to go somewhere after class. Later, Gilsu realized he had been walking for quite a while, following Jin Do-il down a path that was getting farther and farther from the city. He asked where they were going, starting to feel they were already too far. Jin Do-il replied that he wanted to show him an important place for anyone new to the school. Gilsu found it strange, wondering what he meant by saying he needed to go there. He noticed that they were going farther and farther and started to wonder if he was falling into another trap. Jin Do-il then asked if he had ever practiced boxing or any other type of fighting. Gilsu replied that he hadn't, which made Jin Do-il smile and say that he would need courage, but they were almost there. Only then did Gilsu notice that Jin Do-il had several scars on his body. This made him remember everything he had gone through at his previous school. He thought about leaving and even tried to apologize, saying he needed to get out of there. But Jin Do-il grabbed him by the arm and insisted they were almost there. He said that since Gilsu was so busy, he could at least check out the place quickly and that he was sure he would like it. With little choice, Gilsu let himself be led along, thinking he was being an idiot. He thought all that kindness was just a facade and that soon everything would repeat like before. But when they finally reached the destination, Gilsu was surprised. He saw an arena packed with students and right in the center, a ring where some students were trading punches. He was shocked trying to understand what was going on. Jin Do-il explained that he knew Gilsu was in shock, but that was the school's fight arena, the greatest privilege offered to students. Gilsu could hardly believe that such an arena existed. Soon after the coach appeared, Jang Chung, who besides being the president of the high school student council, also ran the arena at Six Gate School. Jin Do-il introduced Gilsu, saying that he was the new transfer student in his class that day. When he looked at the coach, Gilsu thought that guy was scary and wondered if he was really just a high school student. Before he could think of anything else, the thick-eyebrowed friend who had been teased earlier appeared, saying he had been waiting for Jin Do and promised he would regret making fun of him. Without wasting time, Jin Do already jumped into the fight, making it clear that life at that school was very different from anything Gilsu had imagined. Chung approached Gilsu, introduced himself as the student council president, and welcomed him to the school. Gilsu looked at him and thought that guy was huge. At that moment, he noticed that everyone around was cheering, while Jin Do and the thick-eyebrowed student were trading punches in the middle of the arena. Gilsu was confused, wondering why they were fighting. Weren't they friends? Chung commented that it wasn't bad at all, saying that the freshmen that year were quite promising. Gilsu was still lost, trying to understand who that man was and what was happening there. Then Chung, with a serious tone, explained that this was the true face of Six Gates. He said that there was no bullying at that school and no aggressors, like in other schools. But violence still existed. The difference was that it was reserved only for that space, the fight arena. Chung said he knew Gilsu had probably gone through a lot of bad things at his old school, but that now he would have a place to let out all his frustration. At that school, everyone was equal in the face of violence. That was the Six Gates arena. Gilsu became even more confused, wondering what was really going on. Chung continued and said he would explain the rules in a very simple way and that he would not repeat himself, so Gilsu needed to pay close attention. The first rule was that only Six Gates students were allowed to enter the arena. Any student who graduated, was expelled, or canceled their enrollment was automatically banned from entering there. The second rule was that all fights had to be one-on-one, with no weapons allowed. Under no circumstances could a third person interfere. The third rule stated that a member of the student council would always serve as the referee during fights, being responsible for deciding when each match would end. While Gilsu tried to process all of this, the boy he had spilled juice on the day before showed up. The boy commented that the new kid was finally there and said they were going to fight to make up for the ruined shirt. Chung said that Gilsu already had an opponent and that there was no better way to learn than by doing it. The fourth rule was announced. Any kind of violence was strictly forbidden outside the arena. Any problem between students had to be settled inside the ring. Finally, Chung explained the most important rule, not to be afraid and just have fun. When Gilsu entered the ring, he wondered how he was supposed to have fun in a fight. Until that moment, his daily routine had only been getting beaten up. On top of that, he was going to fight a guy who looked 3 times his size. His 3 years of experience as a bullying victim started screaming in his head, warning him to run away or he would end up dead. When the fight started, the crowd got excited, commenting on how unlucky Gilsu was to be picked by Kang In-hai on his first day of school. Another student asked if Kang In-hai was famous, thinking he was still a first year. But someone explained that Kang In-hai was the younger brother of a well-known guy. Kang In-hai asked if Gilsu wasn't going to make a move and said he would go easy on him since it was his first time there. Meanwhile, Gilsu was so terrified that his whole body felt frozen. He wondered if he felt that way because he had been thrown into the situation so suddenly. When Kang In-hee realized that Gilsu wasn't moving, he decided that if Gilsu wasn't going to attack, he would go at him himself. Gilsu's fear grew with every second. He was completely terrified. But then, suddenly, something happened that no one expected. Unable to control his nerves, Gilsu vomited all over Kang In-hee, leaving the entire arena in shock. The referee immediately called for a pause in the fight, while Kang In-hai, furious, demanded someone bring him a towel to clean up the mess. Meanwhile, Gilsu thought that he had never in his life stood up to anyone, let alone hit someone. He simply couldn't imagine himself punching another person. The next day, there was only one topic being discussed, the vomit incident that had happened in the arena. In the hallways, in the bathroom, everyone was talking about it. Meanwhile, Gilsu kept wondering how he ended up at a school with a fight arena. He thought it would be a normal school. Now everything seemed out of control. He remembered the coach's words, telling him to have fun. But Gilsu felt he wouldn't be able to. He didn't even know how to throw a proper punch, let alone face someone for real. He thought the only thing he could do was avoid going to the arena, and that way at least he would stay safe. Meanwhile, Chung was outside doing 1,000 push-ups with 2 students sitting on his back. Gilsu looked and wondered if that guy was really just a high school student. Soon after, Chung approached Gilsu, asking if he had something to say. Gilsu replied that he did, and that he wanted to ask something about the fight arena. Chung, with a smile, asked if he had managed to develop any skills besides the vomit attack, and the people around joked that they had become his fans because of that. Gilsu explained that it wasn't about that. He just wanted to say that he wouldn't be able to go to the arena that day. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone around fell silent, surprised. Chung was the first to react, asking why. He said that Gilsu hadn't even gotten hurt the day before. So why was he trying to skip? Gilsu said he had no confidence to fight someone else. He said he didn't want to hit anyone and didn't think it was fun. He also commented that he didn't understand the logic behind the arena, and that from that day on, he wouldn't be able to participate anymore. But Chung approached and said that what Gilsu had just said was basically a free pass for him to be beaten up as much as others wanted. As student council president, Chung Jung announced that student Gilsu was no longer under the protection of the fight arena. Later, Gilsu kept thinking about it, wondering what exactly this so-called protection meant. It didn't take him long to find out. Shortly after, Kang In-hee went to his classroom. During, Kang said he heard that the new kid wasn't going to step into the arena anymore. Without giving him time to react, the first thing he did was slam Gilsu's head against the desk. Kang said that now he was going to properly teach him what that meant in that school. He commented that he really needed a new slave, and that from now on, Gilsu belonged to him. No one did anything while Gilsu was getting beaten up. One of the other boys commented that he had heard that Gilsu had been transferred because he got beaten a lot at his previous school. Kang said that was unbelievable, and that he had already figured it out the moment he started hitting him. That was when Gilsu began to understand what the arena's protection really meant. If he didn't participate in the arena, he would be vulnerable to all kinds of aggression within the school. His hell was starting all over again. Later, he was called to the principal's office, where they asked if he wanted to quit school. He had barely completed a week since joining that school. Gilsu answered yes. That was exactly what he wanted. He said he was already preparing for exams, and that at the moment, they were more important to him. The teacher just said that if that was what he wanted, there wasn't much they could do. Gilsu thought he had done everything he could. He felt sorry for his father and mother for becoming such a useless son. After leaving the office, he thought that finally his terrible school life had come to an end, and that starting the next day, he would begin a normal life. But at the exit, Chung was waiting for him. He asked why Gilsu wasn't even trying to fight, wanting to know what the big problem was. Gilsu simply apologized and said sincerely that violence was a trauma for him. He said he had already suffered too much bullying in life and had reached his limit. All he wanted now was to give up. He said that everything he could do, he had already done. Chung then said that Gilsu was even more pathetic than he imagined. He asked who said he needed to fight like a professional. He said technique was for featherweights, that if he had no teeth, he should bite with his gums, and that if he had no strength, he should use courage. According to him, that was what fighting was about. But at that moment, Gilsu wasn't even doing the bare minimum to protect himself. He asked if Gilsu really thought he would find a colorful and perfect world out there just because he was leaving. He said that the way he was, Gilsu would continue being the loser he had always been for the rest of his life. When Gilsu left the school, he kept wondering who that guy thought he was to say such things. He thought Chung had never been weak, so he had no right to say anything. But on the way home, Kang In-hee appeared with his group. Kang said he heard that Gilsu wouldn't be coming back to school starting the next day, and asked how he had the courage to quit without talking to him first. Gilsu wondered how they had found out so quickly. Kang said that if he left, who would be his punching bag? He explained that ever since the arena was created, he had been without a slave, and that now he thought everything would just end because Gilsu was leaving school. Later, Gilsu was being beaten up in an alley. While getting hit, he thought that day he really might die. Kang said he should be glad because if that had been the 6 gates from when his brother studied there, Gilsu would probably already be dead. Kang also asked if the address was correct, saying that Gilsu lived at Unit 1105, Building 604, Apartment A in the city of Mangu. Kang added that next time they would pay a little visit there. Gilsu panicked, wondering what they were planning to do with his address. When he tried to fight back, Kang noticed and asked if he was finally starting to react. He told him to stay still, saying he was going to take a picture of him all messed up to send to everyone. While getting beaten even more, Gilsu kept wondering what was happening to him. He asked himself what he had done wrong. He thought it was all going to end, that the abyss of eternal pain had finally finished. But he was dragged back into suffering. He thought that, for some reason, he couldn't escape that hell. That was when he remembered Chung's words, saying that he didn't need to fight like a professional and that he didn't need technique. All he had to do was use what was within his reach, at least do the minimum to protect himself. Remembering that, this time, Gilsu screamed. Kang found it funny and told the others to hold him down a bit more, saying he was recording a video. Gilsu wondered what he had done wrong to deserve all that. Without thinking much, he kicked the phone out of Kang In-hee's hand, who got furious and told the others to hold the boy tighter, complaining that he was struggling too much. But Gilsu had already made a decision. He thought he would use everything at his disposal. Without hesitation, he bit Kang's hand hard enough to draw real blood. For the first time, Gilsu thought he wouldn't give up. Even after taking a strong punch, the one who seemed to be in more pain was Kang himself. With a determined look, Gilsu wondered if that pain he was feeling was really enough to make him stop. He thought that if he was going to die there, then he would take Kang with him to hell. Kang, surprised by the reaction, commented that even a rat fights back when it's cornered. He said that now Gilsu really needed to be prepared. Kang's group rushed at him, but Gilsu fought back as best he could. He fought like a complete novice, with no technique at all, just using everything he could. He didn't need to fight like a professional. He just needed to do anything he could to defend himself. Kang told his friends to hold the boy down, but Gilsu managed to escape and ran off. While fleeing, he wondered what had gotten into him to suddenly start fighting those guys. Meanwhile, in the school arena, another fight was taking place when suddenly the doors opened. It was Gilsu, who appeared loudly announcing that he wanted to participate in the arena. And that's the end of this chapter. If you enjoyed the recap, don't forget to like, comment which part hyped you the most, and subscribe for the next episode. See you in the next upload.